समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा?
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Many in the media have moved on beyond the Air India 17 crash. It barely makes it to our front pages or our prime time anymore. But not here at the Mojo Story, where we have continued to follow every twist and turn, every significant development in this colossal tragedy that took place when AI 171, taking off from Ahmedabad, headed for London, crashed about 30 seconds after it took off from the runway. In the last few weeks, or rather I should say months, we have seen a very controversial preliminary investigation report. It has been vastly debated by everybody, including here on this program. But there have also been whispers about how this was the fault of the pilots. In particular, fingers have been pointed at Captain Sumeet Sabharwal, who was the commander of the plane, and there have been articles, especially in Western media, trying to link the crash to the mental health of Captain Sumeet Sabharwal. Well, now Mojo Story has accessed a 6-page letter of anger and of anguish written by the 91-year-old father of Captain Sumeet. The 91-year-old father of Captain Sumeet, imagine for a moment what could be worse than losing your young son to a plane crash or to lose him in the prime of his life. The only thing that could be worse than the death of your son is the fact that he is being blamed in certain sections of the media for the plane that went down. The letter that has been accessed by us, it's a 6-page document. We have it with us. We are not physically showing the letter, but we have picked up the key points from this letter. And in this letter, the father of Captain Sumeet basically shuts down the suicide theories and speculation that has engulfed and surrounded the entire conversation around this crash. I want to welcome our guests, our experts today, and then I'll take you through the main points of what this letter actually says. If we can bring up our guests now, I want to first welcome to the program Captain Amit Singh. He's been a aviation safety expert, and he's been speaking up repeatedly and very vocally on this issue. And we're also joined by Captain Randhawa, who's of course the president of the Federation of Indian Pilots. And I want to start by actually going through the main points of of the letter that we have accessed, and I want to start with bringing up these points. Here is what has happened in this letter. The 91-year-old father of Captain Sumeet, could we have the light on, please? Thank you. The 91-year-old father of Captain Sumeet Sabharwal, the commander of the Air India 171 plane that crashed, has called out and shut down what he calls speculations and innuendo that have tarnished the reputation of his son. In fact, the precise phrase that he uses is selective leaks and innuendos have tarnished Captain Sumeet's reputation. He goes on to also talk about the impact of these leaks on his own mental health. He says in this letter, the 6-page letter that we have accessed, that the innuendos have impacted my mental health. He's now talking about, as a father, a 91-year-old elderly man who's living alone, and Captain Sumeet used to look after him. He's saying that these innuendos have impacted my own mental health, of course, in addition to tarnishing Sumeet's reputation. He then goes on to directly taking on head-on the preliminary investigation report. He says that the preliminary investigation report was filled with what he calls insinuations on the one hand. He's talking about the finger pointing that has been, in a way, done when it comes to his son, who was the commander of the plane. And he also is talking about what he calls copious clean chits that have been given to the manufacturers. If you remember, if we can just go back to that slide, if you remember, the preliminary investigation report actually gave a clean chit to Boeing 787. That was the model of the aircraft that crashed. And since then, we have seen so many incidents involving the 787. And the father, the 91-year-old father of Captain Sumeet, is questioning what he calls insinuations on the one hand and the clean chit to manufacturers. Now, what is really moving about this 6-page letter, and I'll come to Captain Randhawa and Captain Amit just as soon as I've gone through all the main points, is that it takes on some of the whispers against his son head on, including the fact that Captain Sumeet was divorced and that Captain Sumeet's mother had died. These are very personal parts of somebody's life, and we would never have brought it up had Sumeet's father not brought these theories and these rumors and these whisper campaigns up about his own son. In this letter, the letter, by the way, is addressed to the Aviation Ministry, the Aviation Minister, as well as to the probe panel that submitted this very controversial investigation report. And he says that it's basically, he shuts down these suicide speculative innuendo-filled reporting in sections of the media. He says it's absolute innuendo that Captain Sumeet was contemplating suicide. He goes on to address the fact that Captain Sumeet was divorced. He actually then says that this is a divorce that took place 15 years ago. And so to try and link it to something that's happened now and to try and link it to his mental health is basically ridiculous. He also addresses the fact that Sumeet lost his mother. He says this is something that happened 3 years ago. In fact, in the letter, he says that Captain Sumeet has done 100 flights after his mother died without any incident whatsoever. So he's basically, this letter is an angry letter. It's the anguish letter of an elderly man who's lost his son and is now, in a way, having to deal with insult added to injury with the rumors of Captain Sumeet having basically died by suicide, and it's actually called a suicide murder in aviation because the rumors have been that Captain Sumeet took his own life and took the lives of the passengers on board the plane. Let's be very clear, the preliminary investigation report does not say this, but it refers very obliquely to a conversation that took place in the cockpit, doesn't give the actual conversation, doesn't give the timestamps, but refers to a conversation on fuel control switches, basis which sections of the Western media came up with this theory. His father is now taking these head on. And also, he is calling into question the investigation report. He says that he believes that there has been external pressure that has been exerted by what he calls so-called representatives, tech representatives. He's questioning, of course, the clean chit that has been given to Boeing and to GE. And this is something that even when the report was placed in the public domain, this was questioned that, how can it, isn't it too early to give a clean chit? Maybe it's the fact, but why has it been given at this stage of the investigation? And he says that the government must cease and desist. The government and the probe panel must cease and desist from sharing any information that casts aspersions on his son. He wants, in fact, the government to issue a public statement saying that any talk of Captain Sumeet being responsible for the AI-171 crash is purely speculative, and he wants someone in authority to issue the statement. And then he goes on to say that if this doesn't happen within 7 days of the receipt of this letter, he will have no option but to approach the court. So here we are, gentlemen. We are in this very delicate moment where Captain Sumeet Sabharwal, the commander of Air India 171, his father, who's 91 years old, has written a 6-page letter. A copy of the letter is available to us. We have read and seen with our own eyes all 6 pages of the letter. The letter has been addressed to the Aviation Minister, the Aviation Secretary, as well as key officials in the government, as well as the panel that was set up to investigate the cause of the crash. Captain Sumeet Sabharwal's father is extremely angry that there are whispers about his son having contemplated or committed suicide. As an explanation for why the crash took place, he takes head on the rumors that have linked his divorce or his mother's death to his mental health, saying in fact that in 25 years of flying, there has been no accident-related incident when it comes to Captain Sumeet. He says that his track record speaks for itself. He also says that this has tarnished his son's reputation and is impacting his own mental health. He wants a public statement clarifying that any sort of reporting that suggests that Captain Sumeet deliberately did something on board AI 171 is pure speculation, and if this statement doesn't come, he will be approaching the court. So this is where we are. Let me start the conversation now. I'll start with you, Captain Randhawa. Your first thoughts, please, and then I'll come to Captain Amit Singh. It's very painful to read this letter. I keep thinking of the images of the funeral. And Captain Randhawa, if you can unmute yourself before you speak, please. You're muted at your end. Yeah.
Okay, Barkha, good evening. As we have been talking on the earlier interviews also, we have contemplated the role of the pilots as given in the transcript of the CVR, which we have not accepted it because it's only partly, and the foreign media and some of the Indian media also tried to hype it, and we did condemn all those reports which were published by the foreign media and even the Indian media partly. Now, coming to the crux of the matter, the letter has gone. We had also had a word with Sumit's father. He's going to send us also a letter, and based on that, we'll be taking it up again with the minister and with the AAIB. Now, what you have rightly said, they have given a clean sheet to all these three American companies, the Boeing, the Honeywell, and also the GE. Now, it was too premature to give a clean sheet. Rather than investigating, they only went on one theory of the fuel control switches, and DGCA checked the Air India aircraft for 787s for the fuel control switches. We had been insisting in the past that there has been an electrical problem in the aircraft, which to no doubt now we have given another theory in which we have written to the DGAIB and to Captain Sandhu, who's the panel pilot member in the investigations, in which again it is boiling down to electrical system. So, in fact, it is very surprising that no indication or no checks have been carried out in the electrical system of the aircraft, and the aircraft keep flying. You see, even when we talked earlier that 737 MAX, the first accident took place, they blamed the pilot. The second crash happened, the Ethiopians made a lot of noise, and with the result that it did emerge that it was a problem with the aircraft. So similarly here, what are they waiting for? In fact, if all the 787s are checked properly, and you come to a logical conclusion that what has gone wrong, rather than just not accepting the fact that there is something wrong with the aircraft. So we again condemn any reporting which is there or by the AIB that they come out with something concrete. I have also come to know that there were two doctors who have been there part of the investigations. They visited Sumit's father. He has not mentioned that in the report, but this is what I learned from my office, that we have asked him to give us in writing. These people approached him and they talked about fuel control switches again and deliberate attempt made of moving the switches, and which has partly triggered this thing of him taking up the issue with the ministry and with the AIB. So what I'm saying is that we as a body of FIP, we highly condemn such an rumors which are spreading, and or if a conclusion is coming up towards this thing without investigating properly into the thing. And what I learned is that the final report of the AIB may come by December this year. I don't know how far it's true, but I believe that is what is on the cards. So, if that be so, then why should again things be going in the direction of attempting to malign the pilots without any concrete evidence?
So I'm glad you brought up the fact that two doctors associated with the probe panel visited Captain Sumeet's house, and they actually brought up the fuel control switches. I'm told he was very upset after that. He felt that there was a slant to the investigation or a slant to the innuendo, and that's when he wrote the 6-page letter. That is our information as well. I want to bring in Captain Amit Singh now. Captain Amit Singh, I mean, my heart really goes out to the to Captain Sumeet's father. As I said, the only thing worse than losing your child in the prime of his life is the fact that you have sections of the media blaming him not just for his own death but for the death of all the passengers on board AI 171. This is a very, very brave letter. In fact, Captain Sumeet's father has not held back at all. He has spoken about everything that was being whispered about, in drawing rooms, in sections of the Western media, from Sumeet's divorce to Sumeet's mother dying. He's 91, and he's pointing out that firstly Sumeet's divorce took place 15 years ago and you cannot link it to his mental health. He's saying Sumeet has done 100 flights after his mother died. He's saying in 25 years of flying, Captain Sumeet has never had, I'm just reading, summarizing the letter, never had an accident related incident. And so please stop tarnishing my son's reputation. That is the heartbroken plea of a father who's lost his son. And he doesn't believe the probe panel has been fair or is going to be fair. That is the operative part that we haven't spoken about. He says there were quote unquote copious clean sheets given to the manufacturers. He wants what he's calling a formal investigation, i.e., he wants a probe that is supervised by a judge of a court. And he's also said if he doesn't get a public clarification in 7 days, he'll be approaching the court. Your reaction, Amit?
The letter clearly points or brings about the frustration, anguish, anger, all the emotions of late Captain's father. And one can imagine the situation in which he is. He's all alone, his son not being there, and being forced to see and hear all these insinuations over the media. And it is not just people talking about the suicide theory and other issues of mental health. It is a planned, a systematic manner in which it is being done. And the whole agenda is being hijacked to divert the issue of technical malfunctions and the history which Boeing has been tarnished with right from the 1987s, when the Boeing 737 started falling down, and they blamed the pilots for it, till it emerged that it was a technical design issue, the rudder issue, to the 747 in which the center tank blew up, the wiring issue, the 787 initially battery fires, to which they blamed the third party, USA manufacturers, and then the MAX issues. So it is not just an issue of safety, it is a cultural issue wherein even the US Senate committee has pointed out that Boeing gave priority towards profits rather than safety. So in investigations, primarily, one has to be fair and transparent. How does that happen? It can only happen if you have an independent body which cannot come under pressure from the big companies like the manufacturers who have deep pockets, and they are willing to shell out money and do whatever to save their image. So safety and quality do not pay in the short term; they pay in the long term. So you have to invest in safety and quality, which we have seen that Boeing has not done so. And in the process, their image, the brand value has taken a hit.
Yeah.
So this letter basically says that I want an independent and fair investigation, and I do not trust the AIB, especially after the preliminary report that I have seen, and followed by the visits, as I've just heard, of the doctors trying to probe into the mental health issues. I can also cite the German wings accident, the famous one in which it was said that the co-pilot
Yeah.
led the aircraft. It was the same suicide theory. But if you read the report carefully, they cannot conclusively prove that the co-pilot did it.
Yeah.
So
And you know,
what
Captain
what
Amit,
they did was
sorry,
they
sorry
tried
to
to,
yeah,
yeah.
you complete your point first, then I'll respond. You go ahead.
So
Yeah.
what they did in that investigation was they tried to go towards the personal history of the co-pilot and what issues he was facing. So they found a couple of medicines and they lashed onto it. So basically, they could not conclusively prove, but they diverted the whole attention towards this suicide theory. So here also, they're trying to look for a hook and basically that give a clean sheet to the manufacturers and link it to the pilot and the mental
Yeah.
health issue.
So I was going to say that in the letter, Captain Sumeet Sabharwal's father actually brings up the example of the 737 MAX, and he says that after the first one, which was Lion Air crash, there was a finger pointed at the pilot, and it took a dreadful second crash for Boeing to basically admit that there was a software issue. So, Captain Amit, we also interviewed the U.S. attorney who's representing some of the families who sued Boeing, and I want reactions from both of you. He's been speaking about a water leak on which there is a directive, and as a possible cause for electrical malfunctions. There are other FAA directives that we've reported all of them. I think the father here is saying at the age of 91 that there are copious clean sheets given to the manufacturers. GE, which makes the engine, was not even looked at, and there was such a hurry to what he calls tarnish his son's reputation. What is the way forward? Do you really believe the government will agree, Captain Randhawa and Captain Singh, to a new investigation? I'll start with you, Captain Singh, and then to Captain Randhawa.
Well, given the situation and where we stand today, we do not trust that this investigation board will provide us with the root cause and the truth. If you see, the selective leaks started happening from 18th of June, when the Wall Street Journal reported that they have information from reliable sources in the investigation. It was not anybody
Yeah.
in the investigation that the RAM air turbine was deployed. Then again, 2 days before the preliminary report was published, again Wall Street Journal reported that about the fuel control switches from the reliable sources within the investigation. So they know people in the investigation who are basically providing them these selective leaks. And the biggest issue is the integrity of the black box, the CVR and the FDR. Between 16th and 24th, it is said that the black box was in Ahmedabad. If the facility is in Delhi, what was the black box doing in Ahmedabad? Whereas I know people who have been talking in the US, ex-NTSB people who said the black box is in USA. And while we have been denying it. So what was it doing in Ahmedabad? We don't know. When the lab is in Delhi, so it should ideally be in Delhi, where they should be trying to investigate. And who found out that the data is not recoverable? Somebody has to open it and see. So without the black box reaching Delhi, the lab, how can you determine that it cannot be revealed? Not by visually looking at it, certainly. So somebody technical has tried to probe deeper into the black box by whatever means, but certainly it cannot be done in Ahmedabad. That's for sure.
So you believe that the integrity of the black box and the cockpit voice recorder is in question, according to you, Amit?
Of course, the government has not denied that there is a leak, nor have they confirmed. So at least they should give out a statement that the integrity has been maintained. So they have not refuted or confirmed. So there is no communication towards that end. and the data has been transferred by the US NTSP because the golden chassis was brought by them, and we do not have the means to transfer the data through the golden
Yeah.
chassis. So they have done it. Of course, our people must have been there as an oversight, but if the black box has flown to US, then the data has obviously
Yeah.
leaked, and otherwise also there is no means to determine or confirm.
So, Captain Randhawa, what happens now, right? You spoke about these two doctors who are associated with the probe panel going to meet Captain Sumeet's father. And after that, he wrote this letter. And I think obviously he had the perception that the line of questioning was spurious according to him, and he now wants what he's calling a formal investigation. In other words, he's rejecting the findings of the preliminary investigation report. He's calling it compromised. He's saying that there were copious clean sheets given in it to the manufacturers, and he wants a public statement, official statement, saying any speculations about a suicide mission this is tarnishing his son's reputation, and the officials should disassociate from it. And two, he's saying if this doesn't happen, I'm going to court. He wants a court-monitored probe. As the representing the Federation of Indian Pilots, how do you see it, Captain Randhawa?
No, Barkha, as far as going to court, what he's rightly said is initially when we wrote to the minister after the crash, we had asked for a judicial inquiry. Now the judicial inquiry has not happened. Okay, it is quite surprising why it has not happened. And on the other hand, a clean sheet given to all the three American companies. Now, if you see, now they're building up the case, what Amit also rightly brought up, that it is quite becoming evident that they're trying to put the blame on the pilots. And they do not want the investigation to go in deeper and find out what was the cause and what could be the technical problems associated with the accident. Now, the AIB, I do not know whether they would be overseeing all the technicalities what have led to the crash, or they're jumping to conclusions. So, in my view, a judicial inquiry should be held, like it was held in the Mangalore crash. So, it is quite evident that all the facts came through in the inquiry. The other point is that prematurely, instigating the father, going to their house. Before that, the attempt was made by Wall Street Journal, some people who had gone to his colony to investigate. So it is all, if you see how it has transpired, there is a link. So, in my view, I still feel a judicial probe should be held in this. Otherwise, I don't foresee that total transparency coming out from this investigation.
Yeah. Captain Amit, just before you react, for anybody who's just tuning in, this is a big development in the Air India 171 crash. The father of Captain Sumeet Sabharwal, who was the commander of Air India 171 that crashed right after takeoff from Ahmedabad, has written a letter to the Aviation Minister, the Civil Aviation Secretary, as well as other officials associated with the probe panel. He says that it's absolute innuendo and speculation that his son was contemplating suicide. He is shutting down these theories, saying that they have tarnished his son's reputation. He is saying they've also impacted his mental health. His father is 91 years old. He's also taken on head-on the whispers about Captain Sumeet's divorce or his mother dying, saying in this letter that we have accessed that this divorce took place 15 years ago and has no link to Captain Sumeet's mental health. He also addresses the issue of Captain Sumeet having lost his mother 3 years ago, saying Sumeet has done 100 flights after that. He says in 25 years of flying, Captain Sumeet Sabharwal had no accident-related incidents at all. He's spoken about the number of miles that Sumeet had of what he says is blemish-free, a blemish-free record. He's also going on to say that the report submitted in the public domain by the probe panel was anything but fair. It was filled with copious clean chits, that's the phrase he uses, to the manufacturers, that the engine manufacturers weren't even looked at, and on the other hand there were insinuations about the pilot. He's referring to that one line that's mentioned in the probe panel about a purported conversation that it takes place in the cockpit where one pilot says to the other, the pilots are not identified by name, did you turn off the fuel control switches? And he says, I did not, whoever the other person is. Captain Clive Kundra was flying, so since then fingers have been pointed at the commander of the plane, who is Sumeet Sabharwal. Captain Amit, I want you to come in here. Basically, Captain Sumeet Sabharwal's father is expressing a lack of confidence in the probe panel, and he's saying he wants a different probe. He's saying he wants also representatives chosen by the Pilots Federation, at least somebody on that panel. They belatedly did add a pilot, Captain Cherry Sandhu, who was added there. But the question that I am asking is, what happens now? This looks like it's going to court.
Well, it should go to the court because it is not just an accident; it is a major accident. Seeing the devastation, the number of lives lost, and the property damaged, and further on, so it cannot be probed by an internal committee of the AAIB. It has to be a larger probe. An accident is basically telling you that there was a systemic failure. Errors happen. Pilots make mistakes. Engineers make mistakes. ATC person, everybody makes mistakes. But aviation is such a sector which is overregulated. There are innumerable number of safety barriers, and those errors are caught. That is why we are flying safe, and aviation is the safest mode of transport. But if an error passes through, an accident happens, which proves that all barriers failed and all the systems collapsed at that moment of time. And it could happen another time if we do not improve our systems. So there has to be a larger inquiry into the whole aviation scenario, right from training of pilots, selection of pilots, to whatever equipment they use, the engineers, the controllers, the safety, the rescue services, etc. So it has to be a bigger probe, and only a judicial probe can do that, giving the public the confidence, because public is a major stakeholder, and they need to know what happened, why it happened, and is the mode still safe, because they have no other means of transportation except to travel by air.
Let me get last comments from both of you. It is a somber moment, Captain Randhawa. You said that earlier you all had suggested a judicial probe and that did not happen. Now that Sumeet's own father has brought this up, and he's also very clear that he is going to petition the court unless there is a public statement from the government or the probe panel that the speculations about his son are only that speculation. As you mentioned, he's obviously been triggered by the visit of doctors who were trying to explore this angle of possible suicide or suicide murder, as it's called in aviation, by Captain Sumeet, and he's horrified. And he's written this letter, which we have accessed. Now, as a federation, what position will you all take, Captain Randhawa?
As Barkha, I have said earlier that we are going to support the cause, and we are fighting for a judicial probe, which we had insisted earlier. And after we received this letter from which we are waiting, he has said by tomorrow or day after he would be sending us a letter. Then we would be taking up this case with the minister, with the Aviation Ministry, and with AAIB. And we are very clear in our mind that we will refute all these speculations or conclusions if they ever come from the AIB. We are going to refute it, and we are going to support the legal way from the FIB.
Okay, so you're waiting in a way for a formal letter from Sumeet's father, is that correct?
Yes. Because I can't take up I have told the father that,
yeah,
I cannot.
Got it.
Because earlier also, when we wanted to take legal action, they were not in a position to, sign the legal documents. Though we said we will spend all the money, but they were not willing to sign.
Yeah.
But I think good sense has
Yeah.
prevailed, and I think we should fight this battle.
Well, a lot of comments coming in supporting the battle that has been started by Captain Sumeet Sabharwal's father. But Captain Amit, it is important to remember he's 91. You know, he's in his twilight years. And so many of these comments, brave father, we're there with you, honest prayers, so many such comments in our audience stream right now. No matter what, truth will prevail, just praying that God gives strength to this grieving father's heart. Another one saying he's 91, he has nothing to lose, and he's taking on the might of, you know, a behemoth like Boeing. I want to give you the last word. What happens now, according to you?
Well, to support his father, not just the people, but the government should step in. That we also want transparent investigation. And since this is a major disaster, we want experts, independent experts, to come in. And that can only happen if a judicial probe happens, because the closed door investigation will no longer be taken by anybody on face value. There will always be a doubt that this has been biased, or it has been hijacked by some other agenda. So to convince the people and more, now it's towards proving a point to the father that we are with you, and we are convinced, and there is no reason to doubt the integrity or the capability or the competence of his son, to which he should be proud of, that he did whatever in his best capacity to save the aircraft and lives of the people in this situation, in the messed up situation that they were in.
Right. It is a very sobering moment, and I think we must remember that this is not only about the tragedy of a 91-year-old father who wants his son's reputation not to be tarnished. All of those family, the relatives of all those who died on board Air India 171 are owed a transparent, fair, robust probe, one that isn't in a hurry to write off clean chits, as pointed out by Captain Sabharwal's father, to corporate behemoths, to manufacturers. You know, maybe they turn out to be not at fault, but how can that happen at the preliminary investigation stage when fingers are being pointed without any concrete evidence having been placed in the public domain at the commander of the aircraft? We leave it there. Thank you, Captain Randhawa and Captain Amit. We will continue to follow what happens here. As I mentioned, this crash has tragically fallen off our headlines, but we will not allow that to happen. Thank you for your time. Take care and see you soon. And those are the images that we leave you with today. That is a grieving father who is now fighting for the reputation of his son. That is a photograph of Captain Sumeet placed on his casket at his last rites. And think of this man, think of this devastated family. As I said, the only thing worse than losing your child is to see him being accused of a suicide murder. The 91-year-old father of Captain Sumeet now challenging all of those rumors and theories. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.